This recording was produced by the Savanna Institute and funded by a grant from the USDA SARE program. You'll be hearing a conversation between aspiring silvopasturist Jacob Marty of Greenfire Farm in southern Wisconsin and silvopasture expert Nate Olive from Ridge to Reef Farm on St. Croix Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. You can find more silvopasture resources at savannainstitute.org.
Well, this is Jacob Marty from Greenfire Farm, and this is an interview. We're actually at Washington, D.C. for the Enhancing Rural Economies Through Agroforestry workshop put on through the Forest Service and the USDA. I'm here with Nate Olive from Ridge to Reef Farm in St. Croix Island in the Virgin Islands. Is that correct?
That's right, Jacob.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a follow-up to the Silvopasture research project that we did in relationship with the Savanna Institute over the last 2 years. And we wanted to interview and get perspectives from other silvopasture operations in around the country, but we're pretty excited that it'll be a different, quite a bit difference from our Midwest roots and theme that we usually do. So Nate, again, is from Ridge to Reef Farm, and I want to give him the opportunity to give a little bit of background on his operation.
Yeah, thanks for including us. We are part of the United States in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and matter of fact, we're the easternmost point of the entire U.S. On the island, and we're actually on the west side of the island at our farm, Ridge to Reef Farm, and we're called that because we see our farm as an interconnected entity in the geographic landscape of St. Croix, where what we do impacts people downstream, and we want to practice a form of agriculture that's not only sustainable, but something that's actually beneficial, that has a positive relationship with outcomes for the environment, for the people there, and for our farm business, so we can do what we love and benefit our community. And that's what Ridge to Reef Farm is all about. And we produce fruits and vegetables, sheep and hogs, and we mostly serve our local market, and we also have a new product that we'll be exporting, which is moringa leaf powder. And so that's who we are and what we do.
Okay. Who's we?
She's not speaking right now, but me and my wife, Shelly, who's in the room here, and also our extended farm family, people who have worked for the farm or who do work for the farm, who interns, apprentices, staff, managers, and our neighbors, and we're just, through the years we've just been slowly developing this organic, quote unquote, although we are certified organic too, but also just the more rootsy, natural community that's formed around our food and our food system and our interactions with people and the events that we have on the farm. We call it our farmelia, our extended farm family.
Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. How long have you been running this operation, or been at the farm?
Well, I originally started to work for a farm that was on our property in 2004. Earlier, I was just volunteering for a few years, and the intent was to create a model farm for other people to emulate in this beautiful area with a great opportunity for visitation and production. They needed somebody to facilitate those goals, and so I was hired as the program director. And then, long story short, everybody left and I was still there, and but still committed to the goals. And it was a difficult project, and there was some funding that fell through that was sort of depending on, and so I was faced with the challenge of how can we really make this function and work, pay for the land, pay fair wages, and live the life that we want to live as food producers, and to make it work on its own accord. And so in 2010, my wife and I started Ridge to Reef Farm on the property, which I'd already worked for as Creaky Dam Farm, which was also certified organic. We redid our certification under that, and we've been going on ever since.
Very cool. And you gave a talk here, or you were on a panel yesterday with me, and it sounded like the farm just has a lot going on. It's sort of just a lot of cool things, and if you go on their website and look at it, I'm sure that you'd be able to see just kind of what's going on. And I was really impressed and excited about this happening across the United States and places you might not might think about. So I'm a little interested with the silvopasture, and that really piqued my interest with my background on that. Could you give a little background of what you're doing with planting some trees and incorporating animals into them?
Yeah, I mean, we live in a productive environment, biologically speaking, and there's a lot of native trees and planted, cultivated fruit trees that are productive, and we don't always have an outlet for those, or for our B grade stuff, or buggy things that we're not going to ever put in the market. So also we have this land that we have a lot of grass too. We have a lot of tall Guinea grass and Johnson grass, and types of grasses that if you don't cut them, then you gotta. I mean, if nothing's eating them, you gotta mow them, because you just will lose control of your fields, even in a forest or orchard situation. And so it just makes so much sense to have animals incorporated into our tree production systems. And so we've been running our hogs through our mango orchard with electric fences, and we use these old historic pens as temporary holding pens for them, and to divide them, and to for all the different uses that we have as we rotate them around. And the hogs are great because they eat a lot of invasive plants, like the coral vine, which is destroying some of the history and some of these 400-year-old walls that we have on a rental property that we manage. And that's where we keep our pigs right now. And also we run them underneath our mango trees, which is something that we're sort of experimenting anecdotally with, and we'd love to do a real study at some point to see if they can help reduce the population of mango weevils, which is a really destructive pest that's been introduced in the Virgin Islands, making the fruits unsellable, basically. And it's just a shame, because we have so many fruit. We have hundreds of mango trees, and so that's one thing. And then we have the St. Croix, the white, the Crusian white, we call them, sheep, or the St. Croix sheep, which we were talking about earlier. A hair sheep that does well in the tropics and does well against the parasites. We have a huge parasite pressure in our subtropical location, and so the sheep just do a great job of keeping things clean, and after the hurricane, even a disaster response, the sheep are on the job. So many trees fell over, and they would go and help us eat the debris away and the vines that were draped along them, and they were growing wild after the storm, and we couldn't get to any property management situation. They have just been keeping things clear. So it's just been a great benefit to us. And the sheep are almost so good, I've kind of slowed down on harvesting because I see such a benefit just in their property management. And so
so you're trying to increase the amount.
I'm increasing the herd right now,
okay,
basically. Okay. And it's because it's like we need them right now, and so it's they're sometimes, and that use is almost more, it's not a vital part of our farm income really for regular meat sales of the sheep for lamb, but we do use the lamb and the pork heavily in our agritourism activities where we serve meals. We also have a pork share where we and previously we had sheep, but we, like I said, we've been backing off of the sheep for a little bit. We'll go back to it again, but so people can get a weekly supply of cut vacuum sealed pork products that we have at the local, that we get slaughtered and cut at the local abattoir. And so it's working out really, really great for us, and we love it.
Could you fill out a little bit more? I'm trying to picture it. Like what type? You said what breed you have of sheep. Like what type of breeds do you have of the pigs, and what type of fencing systems and water systems are you using? And do you have a general how rotations or other management stuff? And I think that a lot of farmers are going to be interested in.
Well, I mean, we use the a lot of electric fencing. We also have some equip-funded rotational fencing systems that are like the Voisin style of intensive rotating. That's encouraging them to really eat down an area quickly and then move them into the next area. So we rotate them in those paddocks. And for the pigs, we use a lot of electric fencing to put them out underneath mango trees, particularly when trees either have a lot of pest problems and we're not using the mangoes because they're so infested with the mango weevil. Otherwise we'd have to be like picking up all these mangoes or cutting the tree down. And some of these trees are great species that we want to find a solution for. We have all sorts of different cultivars of mango, and we also have avocado and soursop, and just we have many fruit trees. I could just go on and rattle them off, but 20 to 50 different varieties easy of different types of fruits. And then with the mangoes, we have probably 25 different types of mangoes alone. And so anyway, so we're trying to put them across the landscape in a way that is clearing and making our jobs easier and making the animals happy. They love it. I mean, they go crazy over these mangoes and the sheep and the pigs. I mean, everybody loves a mango, especially the donkey, who's like the protector of our sheep. We have one donkey, Pippin, who rolls with the sheep everywhere they go and protects them against dogs, which is a problem for probably every sheep herder, and especially where we are. And so and I mentioned the sheep varieties, and you asked about the pigs. The pigs, we don't really know exactly what breed they are. We've heard Yorkshire. It's a long pig that's more suited for chops than a big round pig, And they are we literally caught them. Me and my farm dog and Shelly cornered. We have a story about that, but anyway, we cornered our first pig, Mr. Wiggles, and he became the big granddaddy of everybody. And he was somebody's pig who had, he was a little bitty piglet when we got him, but somebody had like let some pigs run loose out in the rainforest where we are, and there's not many places around us, and they were just kind of getting into our vegetables, and we suddenly we're in the hog business. We got one, then we got two, then we started breeding, and then just kind of expanding, and then we started off with a pig tractor that we moved around, and we fed them all our excess produce and compost and fruit, and which was an amazing way to plant trees, by the way. Everywhere he was, there's a fruit. Everywhere we moved that tractor, there's now a lime tree, there's a soursop tree. I call them the Mr. Wiggles legacy trees. And so they're kind of randomly across our property, and we know how they got there, and now his descendants are making up our herd, which gets up to 80 and down to 25, just sort of depending on the season. And so it's not a huge operation, but it just is incorporated into all the other things that we do. We don't want to get too big, and they've threatened them. When we got to 80, we're okay. This is not our primary activity as a farm, so let's cull it back a little bit. And
I have a similar size group of pigs on
right.
our farm, and I know that's a lot of work. That's impressive. So cool.
Yeah, it is a lot of work.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you were talking a little bit about you're planting trees still, and that's really cool that Mr. Wiggles with the big tractor, that he was actually planting trees, and probably I don't know if that's going through his he's eating them and then depositing the seeds, or if he's planting them just by rooting and stuff like that. But that's really that's neat. You've done your own plantings though with establishment with tree tubes and everything too, right?
Yeah. We also we use the tree tubes, which I haven't really had them grazing around many of the tree tubes because I've been experimenting with it. And I believe like in your presentation you noted, which I noted too, when I saw your slide about with the tree tubes, I was thinking, how does he not get them to knocking them over? I was thinking about that because they love to, like you said, scratch on them. They're looking for something to rub against and all that. And so we also have deer, believe it or not, in St. Croix. And so the tubes are essential for a lot of the trees, or the deer will demolish what we're planting. And when they get a certain size, then we can let the animals graze around them once they're big enough where they're not just going to get pushed over. They're not little young saplings anymore. And so we've been planting various fruit trees, nice little cultivars of things, and a lot of Moringa oleifera, which is a superfood, quote-unquote, tree from India that is just gaining popularity, and we have been selling the leaf for a company that powders it and makes products out of it.
Is that medicinal, or is that to be
It's like a dietary supplement, sort of, that has a lot of nutritional benefits, especially having complete proteins as a plant, loaded with calcium and vitamin A, and something where not only vegetarians. I'm an omnivore, and I love just having it in my water. It just really energizes me. It's a very energizing crop or product. But also for people who are vegetarians or vegans, they're missing out on some essential things that Moringa is just loaded with. And so the product that we deal with, or the company, is branded as Moringa Lion, and it's the owners are Rastafarian, who are vegan, and this is something that they started off providing to their own kind of community of musicians around the music, and it's now spreading to the States and to like a medical supply company that wants to push their product into a wider market. And so that's a great thing. And also when we harvest it, energy cycling is huge, especially on an island. I mean, it's like when you have all this fruit and it's on the ground, what are you going to do with it? I mean, you're going to let it there and let all the flies get on it, and then they're going to infect your fruit. And then you either got to cut your trees down, or you got to find something to do with the down fruit. It's the same way when we harvest moringa. Although it might not get infested, but after we harvest the moringa, we have these sticks that when we do it, we cut like a whole branch. We pollard the tree, basically, which is like not a coppice, which is to the ground, but pollarding is about chest height topping of the tree, which then encourages the lateral growth, like somebody would do like a crepe myrtle or something. And so you get all these lateral growth branches, which we break off, and then they quickly resprout. It's an amazing tree. And when we have all the leftovers, then all the sticks and leaves that we didn't use, and just all that goes to the pigs and to the sheep. And it's just, I mean, if you were to go there and just lay out like have a taste test. If I don't know if you've ever tried this to see like what do they like carrots better than tomatoes, and you throw them both in and see which ones are they always going for one over the other. Well, moringa is just one of those things where there's hardly anything I could think of that they would rather eat than moringa, and they will sit there and spend all day chewing up the sticks. They'll eat the bark. They just love it. And so it's for us, and we're kind of new into the moringa market and kind of working that in with our animals, and but so far it's just a great combination, and I love seeing things get used. I just hate waste. It just really bothers me to my core. And so when we're doing something and when I see something that we can't use, it upsets me until we figure out something to do with it. Mm-hmm. And so it brings me a lot of peace and enjoyment.
Yeah. Well, that's a great lead, because I wanted to ask you, I had learned about moringa when I did a permaculture design course, actually. Mm-hmm. And so that's my exposure to it. And you talked, you made a comment during our workshop today about permaculture. And I figured I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts about how silvopasture and permaculture, how those can be together, and just in general, what your thoughts are on permaculture?
Well, I mean, it definitely speaks to some of the ethical, one of the things that sets permaculture apart from other systems is that it acknowledges an ethical basis, fair share, or as for the earth, for the people, and a fair share of resources, that there's an equity in those things. And that is, I love that about permaculture, that I feel like a lot of other systems are sort of always run away from the ethics, and they pretend it's just about growing food and products. But everybody is behaving in a way that's driven by their beliefs, which are driven by their values and their core values, which are driven by their core ethics. And without that, even if somebody never incorporated the term permaculture, but just to acknowledge that you're doing things for a greater good and for a balance of the things that exist in the natural law of nature and of people, it's important. So I wish more people would study it, even if they didn't adopt quote unquote permaculture. And then you get into the principles, and one of them is basically I forget the term, but the having multifunctionality, where one thing you do serves different purposes at once. It's it's energy conservation, and it just fits right into the silvopasture system of having, why just have the fruit trees when you could also have lamb meat coming out of that orchard as well? It just makes sense. All you need is a fence and some water and good grass and take care of the animals, and it's wonderful. And and chickens also are one of those animals that can just do a whole lot of services for a farm, as long as you can keep them contained. And we've gone through chickens, we've gone through phases of chickens, and they're a little bit harder to control than some of the other animals. So, and we have mongoose pressure. That's really the thing that gets them and kind of makes the chicken tractors not so appealing to us, because it's like a death trap with the mongoose. So, but going back to permaculture, I mean, I feel like that there's sort of a stigma attached to permaculture, and like what we talked about in this workshop here, the agroforestry workshop, there's sometimes an urbanization of like permaculture concepts where it's not always tied to actual agricultural production. It's more of a value system that can be put into practice, and which is fine, and that's just what it is. But I think it does kind of scare away some people, and maybe how it's taught and all those things. But it's just really such a beautiful package, an educational package that is including this sort of standard 2-week permaculture intensive. And it includes so much of what people aren't getting any other way in a package that delivers knowledge about everything from composting to how to think about your farm, to the ethics and principle driven operations, and how to lay out a map, how to do an overlay of a map of your farm, to incorporate the zones and the microclimates and all those things that just, once you lay them all out, it just makes sense, and you don't even have to think practically, because it just puts itself on the page of how you can lay it out. And it's so intelligent of an approach that I think everybody should do it, and they just need to rebrand it or something so it doesn't scare away certain people, or I guess. But and I don't like sort of dogmatic things personally. I kind of shy away from those. So I can understand some of that response people have, but I really think that it's an invaluable tool that I hope can be more widely accepted and understood, by people and shared.
Well, I like that you bring up the values and the ethics and that background, that foundation really for permaculture and sustainable agriculture and all that we're talking about. And I think it's really important that we have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
We bring that up and we're not afraid to talk about it and embrace it. And that's, that gets momentum. And I think, silvopasturing is definitely a tool in that package that you're saying. And it is something that could bridge the gap between maybe people that maybe aren't they're turning off their interest when they hear certain words or keywords or something like that.
Right.
So
yeah.
I'm glad that I think that summed it up really well. I know we're running a little tight on time, but I wanted to ask if you're from the southern United States, continental United States, right?
Originally.
Georgia.
Right.
And do you have any, I guess, insights on if you were doing this, what you're doing right now in Georgia, how you might have to change some things, or certain issues or problems or obstacles, whatever, that you're trying to, that you encounter right now in the Virgin Islands that you wouldn't have back on the mainland, that we can maybe in the Midwest or across the country kind of think about. It might give us some context that might unlock some issues or solutions that we're having issues on our own operations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, being on the island has advantages and disadvantages, absolutely. And a lot of the concepts of organics and permaculture and agroforestry are sort of not widely known in the Virgin Islands as much as they are in the States. And so there's an advantage there of knowledge and people knowing about a lot of these concepts, so you're not just the crazy guy doing these things with absolutely nobody knowing what you're doing. And so I mean, just that social acceptance, or at least knowledge and awareness, is an advantage. But one thing about that I've learned about the island is that, especially not just states versus island, but maybe I grew up in a metro area of Atlanta, which is a big city, and now I'm on a small island where it's like your voice can be heard easier with a smaller population. So it's like this small town kind of thing. And for our operation, that's been extremely important, because we have lobbied to get government recognition for some of the things that we do, like agritourism, that it's considered by the government farming. That those sides of our business that are really crucial. So like, if we had, and we do have, permaculture workshops at our farm, if we have income from that, is that considered farm income? Well, it wasn't, but now it is, because we lobbied and we testified to our local municipality, and they said, yeah, let's put that. To my surprise, they actually copied and pasted a lot of the things that I put into my testimony, and they put it into the new laws, so it would be considered that when they're considering, for property tax exemptions and things, that there's advantages that are in the Virgin Islands. So I think, and I heard about, we do farm to table dinners. We call them slow down dinners, and it's a huge part of our operation as well. and that's what a lot of our meat goes to. Actually, every meal we have features some of our silvopasture meat, and so the meals too are something where I heard in Las Vegas that outside of that there was a farm that got shut down because they weren't considered a restaurant, and we ours are like donation only meal events, basically, and but it was something where we needed to have that as a part of it is a part of our farm, and we need to have that recognized. And so I just think that people should be really active in the levels that they need to be and work together to have your voice heard. To me, I believe that farms should be more than just food provision factories. They should be places where people in nature interact with great products that happen because of how we're interacting. And that includes having people there, and sometimes this is going to be part of your business. And so that should all be included in our concept of what is a farm. But also, we don't want to water that down and just have some event center and then with this fake little farm on it. That's the other thing you want to avoid. So, and there you go, back to ethics and integrity. And, that's crucial. And that's why we need farming education that's ethically based, and so to me that's some of the main things, and sounds like you're already using our sheep, which is great, the hair sheep, mm-hmm. and which were developed in St. Croix, and they're very easy to work with, and also the Sinopole cattle is a great breed. It's a grass-fed, a very efficient converter of grass to calories from St. Croix, which is produced in St. Croix as a Presidia breed. That's what the slow food would call it, Presidia. And otherwise I feel like a lot of what we do is pretty similar, except that we have this long growing season. With that comes a long pest season and a long disease season too for our crops, which is kind of difficult to deal with. But I just think that having fighting for recognition for what we're really going after, being honest about what really is the motivating goal, or what am I really going for? Am I really just wanting to fit this model of just a big production farm where we work and we have a product and then we go home, or are we trying to go back to this more homestead idea, or forward to a community center where we're really educating others and having a place for people to reconnect where their food comes from and all those sort of things. That's what we're about. And so if that's what people want to do, like what we are out to do, then I suggest to fight for it, to be recognized, to keep speaking, because people are listening. Things are changing. Things change quickly. When I was in Georgia, in Athens, Georgia, you couldn't find a market with local produce in it. And now it's just a booming scene. There's all these markets, all these farms. It's so inspiring to me. And so I've seen how quickly things can change. It's only because people made it happen. So that's the important thing. Just go out and make it happen.
Well, thank you very much. We have, I think, just a minute or two left on the mics and memory, but just my insight or my takeaways from what you just shared there, I think, it really resonates to speak up and be active in your community and building your community within your farm. I don't think you're just homesteading with the amount of stuff that you're doing, and from everything I've heard, it seems so impressive. I want to visit it, and you do a lot of agritourism, so just want to give a plug for you there. That's
right.
I want to go visit, and hopefully other people do, and they can check you out on Facebook and Instagram, and you have your website, Ridge to Reef Farm.
ridgetoreef.org.
Okay.
And it's with a 2 in the middle, ridge2reef.org.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, well, thanks again, and maybe we'll have to do this another time.
Thanks for having me.
Right.
Appreciate it.